So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do laser heat vision like Superman. So I'm going to start by going to File, Import, and I'm going to find my footage. And here's a clip that I shot just a moment ago. And once it's here in my project bin, I right-click it and I say New Comp from Selection. Then I need to trim this down. So to trim it down, I'm going to find the spot where I want it to begin. I kind of look around and I'm going to take my glasses off. So I'm going to go to the spot right when my hand is kind of coming up to take my glasses off. That's going to be the beginning of my clip. So I'm going to pull my work area bar in to that point right there. And then I'm going to do the same for the right side of this clip, or the end of it. I'm going to find the spot where my laser vision kind of is ending. I think I want it to end about there. Pull in my work area bar, and I'm going to trim my composition to this work area bar. So I go to Composition, Trim Comp to Work Area. So now that's all that I'm going to see is what was in between those brackets. The next thing I need to do is split this into two clips, kind of where I took my glasses off and to when the lasers are going to start. So I'm going to find this place where I want the lasers to start. I want it to start right here. So at this point, I'm going to split this clip. I'm going to go to Edit, Split Layer. Now I have two clips. This one, I'm going to right-click and I'm going to rename. I'm going to call this one Glasses Off. And then this one, I'm going to right-click and I'm going to rename, call it Lasers. So that's where the lasers are going to start. Next thing I need to do is track the motion of my eyes. So I'm going to select this clip that has the motion of my eyes that I want to track. Under Animation, I'm going to choose Track Motion. Animation, Track Motion. Then I have access to this, and it says Motion Source. Well, it's going to be the motion source is going to be lasers, this layer. And it gives me this little track point for Tracker 1. I'll zoom in a little bit. I want to increase the size of this track point. This is going to be following my eyes, or one of my eyes right now. And I want this big enough to go over my eyeball. After I've kind of figured out the right size, I'm going to move this to over my eye. When I move it, I make sure that I grab it kind of by the edge here, so it becomes that type of cross. If you grab it from the middle, then you're going to be moving that center area, and I don't want to do that. I'm going to increase the size of the inner box, so that's going to be around my eyeball, and this is kind of tracking the area around my eye. And I'm making sure that I'm in the beginning of the clip. Then I need to analyze this motion of my eye, so I go to this section that says Analyze, and I click Analyze Forward. And you'll notice that there it goes. It tracks the motion of my eyeball. And then it recorded that. You can see those little track points. So that is the motion to my left eye. Now I need to track the motion to my right eye. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to move to the beginning of the clip. Here it is selected. And I want to click Track Motion. It gives me, again, track point 1, but now you'll notice it's under Current Track, Tracker 2. So this is my second one. Click this. Same thing. I'm going to increase the size of the box so it's going to be able to go over my eye. And I'm going to move this over my right eye. So now I have a tracker that's going to be tracking this. Again, I need to analyze it. So I come over here and I click Analyze Forward. And it plays it forward, analyzes the motion of my eye, and records that data. Next thing I'm going to do is apply that data to a layer. So I'm going to go to my composition, and I'm going to create a new layer, and this time I'm going to create a null object. That creates this null object right here, and I'm going to shrink the size of the null object, or the length of it, that is. So it's over this laser section. And I want it to track the motion that was recorded earlier. So I select it, and then up here in my tracker, it says Motion Source. Well, I want it to get it from lasers, and I want it to get it from Tracker 1, this one here, my left eye. And then I'm going to make sure that it says Motion Target. Well, the target is going to be this null 1. So I'm not confused. I'm going to rename null 1, and I'll rename this left eye. And again, with it selected, I'm going to edit the target. So right now it says glasses off, and that's not what I want. I want to edit the target, and I want to choose from the drop-down left eye. Click OK. And now I'm ready to apply it. So I click Apply, and then it asks me Motion Tracker, Apply Options. Well, I want it to track the X and the Y. So I click OK, and now you notice that null object jumped to my eye there. The corner of it went there. So now that null object is following my eye. Okay, my caps lock is on. There we go. And you can see that null object is following my eye. Now I need to repeat those steps for my right eye. So I'm going to do Layer, New, and I'm going to choose Null Object. I will right-click, rename it right away. Right eye. And again, I will trim it so it is the same length of this one. And now I need to take and get the source of that motion. So for this one, the source of the motion is going to be lasers. But what tracker? Well, it'll be tracker 2. Again, gotta make sure that you edit the target. The target is going to be right eye. Then I click OK, and then Apply. Same thing, it asks Apply Dimensions, X and Y. Just leave that, click OK. And now you can see I've got these two boxes over my eyes, and that is what is tracking my eye movement. The next thing I want to do is I want to add lasers to my eyes. So I'm going to start with my left eye. So I'm going to create a new layer, and this time I'm going to create a solid. And I'll call this left laser. And it's going to be gray, it doesn't matter. So I got this gray thing over the top of it. No big deal. Don't freak out when you see that, because that's what the solid is. But I want that to be right above this. And I'm going to look for my effects and presets, and I'm going to look up beam. I'm going to drag beam to this solid. And then you can see I've got this, it looks like a little bit of a laser beam. I'm going to shorten this beam so that it is just the length of how I want it shooting. Now here's why I did the motion tracking. I want the end of this beam to kind of come out of my eye and follow my eye no matter where they go. So to do that, I'm going to go to this left laser and effects and beam, and it says starting point. Well, the starting point, where do I want it to be? I'm going to actually whip it up to my left eye's position. And you see that position has the clock on already because that's what was recorded. And starting point, I get this whip and I go to position. Now you'll notice that it kind of goes diagonal because it's actually going from here to here. Next thing I want to do is maybe change the color of this beam. Outside color, maybe I want somewhat orangish, and the inside color something kind of yellowish. But you can choose whatever color you want. And maybe I'm going to take that ending thickness, and now you notice as I grab that ending thickness, then a beam starts to move its position. Don't worry about that. We'll deal with that later. And the starting thickness, I'll make it a little bit bigger. And now you'll notice it says the time is 50% and the length is 25%. I'm going to increase the length of that. And you can kind of see that it's starting here and it's going to this point. I'm going to move that end point over here. Now you can kind of see the width of it. And I can increase the softness. And I'm going to leave the time where it is and length 100%. If I want, maybe I can change the end thickness a little bit. It's getting a little bit thicker, has a little bit of perspective on it. And anywhere I move forward, you'll notice that it's kind of tracking my eye. But it doesn't really shoot out, so that's what I want it to do. So that's where this time thing comes in. So I go to the beginning of the clip, here for my left laser. Collapse that one. And I'm going to turn the clock on the time. So at the beginning of it, I want this time to be at 0, and then I go just a little bit further when I'm kind of moving forward. So maybe at about this point, I want the laser to start to kind of shooting out. So I'm going to take that time and I'm going to go to 50%. The reason I'm going to 50 is because I want it to stay kind of shooting. So you'll notice that it kind of shoots out. I'm going to hit play and you can watch that. So there you kind of see it kind of starts and it kind of shoots forward. And that's kind of the basics to it. So now I'm going to repeat that. That was my left laser, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to create my right laser. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go to Layer, New Solid, and I'm going to call this right laser. And I'm going to click OK. I'll trim this down to the length. And now I'm going to apply that beam to my right laser one. And there it is. Then I need to track or move it to there. Now my lasers are going to have slightly different colors. I should have copied those numbers. I could do that later. And now I want it to track to the beginning of my eye. So to do that, I'm going to go to my right laser, Effects, Beam, and then I need it to expand my right eye, the transform, and I'm going to take this starting point and whip to my right eye position. And again, you can kind of see that diagonal look there. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'll take my ending thickness and starting thickness, but I might want to reference my left eye or my left laser setting, so I'll take a look at that. And I can see that my ending thickness is 30.5, starting thickness is 1530. So ending thickness, I'm going to punch in that 30.5 and starting thickness of 15.3, and then I need to figure out that time and also the length. When I look at this bottom one, softness is also at 99, so I'm going to increase the softness to 99, and then the length should be at 100. So right now I'm referencing my left laser and I'm applying it to my right laser. So I'll punch in 100. And now you can kind of see the length of it. But I need this point to go out here. Now it's at the wrong time, because right now it's the full time at 50%. I'm going to turn that clock on and I'm going to hit 0. So starting, it's going to be here. And then I'm going to go to the same section of here where my left eye is, and I'm going to change that time now to 50. Now I've got 2, but my eyes look like they're a little bit crooked. So I'm just going to move this up a little bit. Now you can kind of see I've got that laser vision. And if I hit play, it's kind of shoot out like that. And that's pretty good. Suppose you could stop right there. But we'll do a little bit more to this. What I want to do is change the blending mode for these. So let me look at my left laser, layer, and I can change my blending mode. I can choose the next blending mode, or just select this here, and you can see that the next blending mode to get to the next one is Shift and equals. So if I just click this, and I want to go to the beginning, or actually right there is good. And I'll hold Shift and equals, and I'm going to notice how that beam is changing. I want to find a look that looks pretty good. I think that one looks pretty good, and I can reference that here. I go to Layer, and I can see what blending mode it is. Currently it's at Add. That's pretty good. So I'm going to do the same to my right one, and all I need to do is go to Layer, Blending Mode. I don't need to cycle through because I know that Add works. Now I've got these beams of light shooting out. And that kind of works, and it's tracking my eye the whole way. Again, could be done, but we're going to do just a little bit more. You can kind of see it kind of gets bright, these bright dots on my eye. If I want, I could also apply a lens flare. Now for the lens flare for my different eyes, what I can do is I'm going to do a new, and I can do a solid, or I can do an adjustment layer. I'm going to do an adjustment layer for this one. Adjustment layer adjusts what is below it with whatever effect I put above it. So I shrink it down to this, and I'm going to look for lens. I'm going to grab the lens flare and drag it to my adjustment layer. And there, it's on there. It's not in the right place. Now this is another reason why I did motion tracking. That lens flare can track my eye. Flare center, well, I want it to track on my left eye. So I'm going to expand left eye. Got this here. Where it says flare center, I'm going to go to my adjustment layer, effects. I'm going to find that flare center, and I need the whip, and I'm going to whip to my left eye position. And now it's on there. Now you can see it's way too bright. So I'm going to lower that brightness to about there. And then it is going to track my eye. I could increase the brightness over time, but let's just take a look at that and see what it looks like for the left eye. All right, I think that works. Now I'm going to apply another lens flare to that adjustment layer. And again, I've got it here. Now this one, lens flare 2, I again want it to whip. So I'm going to hide lens flare 1 and expand lens flare 2, flare center. This time I want it to track my right eye position. So I expanded transform here so I can see my position here. And flare center, I'm going to whip to this position. And now I've got it there. Flare brightness for this, again, I want it to be like the other one. I'll do 32. And then I've got this. And it might be too much, but and you can kind of see how it shoots out. And it's tracking the motion of my eyes. And that might be a little bit too intense. So maybe 32 was too much. I'm going to dial that down a few notches. Maybe I'll do it 22. And I'll do the same for the one below it. A little bit less. And there, kind of see that. Now right now it's just acting like regular beams of light. If I wanted it to kind of be somewhat wavy, I can apply some other effects to that. And we'll try to apply a little bit of like waviness so it's not as exact as these beams of light. So I'm going to come up here in my effects, and I'm going to look in my distort, scroll down, and I'm going to look for wave warp. And I'm going to apply a wave warp to my laser layers. Not the lasers, because that would distort all of this. I just want to affect these. So I'm going to start with my left laser. I'll drag wave warp to left laser. And then you'll notice it goes like that. A little bit too much because the wave that it's using is sine wave. So instead of the sine wave, I'm going to choose smooth noise. And you can kind of see what that looks like. It's a little like shaky. You can kind of see it moving. And I'm going to do the same thing for my right laser. So I'm going to drag the wave warp to my right laser layer, and instead of sine, I'll change it to smooth noise. Then we'll take a look at that. And that's pretty good. I'm going to do one more thing, because if I zoom into this and you take a look at 100%, it's kind of a beam, but it's kind of jagged in the middle, and maybe I don't want it so jagged in the middle. So to do that, to get rid of that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate my left laser layer, Command D. Now I have two of them, and it actually gets brighter. But in this left laser that I duplicated here, on one of them, I'm going to just grab that wave warp and delete it. So now you notice the center is smoother, and then the outer edge is the one that has the noise to it. And now I'm going to do the same to my right laser. Do a Command D. That duplicates it, and I'm going to get rid of the wave warp to that one. So now I've got two of them. Now, because I have all of these laser layers that have different names to it, this one has noise, so maybe I can right-click, rename left laser noise, and then I'll do the same to my right laser that has the noise. I'm going to rename, and I'll call this right laser noise. And then I think I've got it, so I'll go and view with the fit, and then you can kind of see that as it kind of shoots out. Now if I wanted to, I could apply even some light in here, but I think this is a pretty quick shot, and I think that's pretty good for a basic kind of motion tracking and using beam, and I think that'll work for us. So we've got our laser eyes kind of shooting out. So one thing you do want to make sure that you do, and I didn't do that just yet, because right now you can see untitled project, make sure you save it. So I better file, and I'm going to do a save as, and I'll call this laser eyes. So make sure you do save your project, because you're going to need it to import it into your other one. So make sure you do save that project. And that's how you do it.